G'day, I'm Mark Davis and this is Kura. Kura was owned by an Aboriginal elder. An elder is like a tribal chief who owned this car for about 45 years. He travelled around Australia and he was staying at Aboriginal communities. While he was staying there, the Aboriginal people there, they painted their tribal stories or Dreamtime stories on the car. So each one is a different story from a different area of Australia. So we're going to take it out and I'll show you what they are. This is a true overlanding vehicle. This vehicle has driven around Australia 3 times, nearly how it is. The owner, Gus Ryder, said he had no swags, no fridge, no refrigeration. He slept on the ground, and that's how they travelled around. This car is pretty much how I bought it, except for the dashboard, which caught fire, and I had to replace it. We had to make up one. Kura was quite spiritual, as Gus told me. He said don't drive it after 5 o'clock at night and don't drive it through a tunnel. He said he'd driven it a few times trying to drive at night because the desert was so hot and it always played up, so he just gave up and just drove it through the daylight, never after 5 o'clock. Now he travelled around Australia with no roof rack, no rhubar, 1 tyre and normal fuel tank. That's all he had. Jump in. Jump in. Good girl. This is my dog Nellie. She's the most awesome dog ever. I think she's just seen a kangaroo. We'll just sneak around on the other side. Yep. She's just seen a kangaroo. And she wants to have it for dinner. Okay, this is a wargle. A wargle is a serpent and it lives in the river in Perth, WA. It's a Swan River, and that's the swan, the black swan that lives in the Swan River. Now this serpent is very important to the people, the Noongar, the local Aboriginal group that live here. And what it does, well, one of the things that it does, is that it goes out to the dry riverbeds and the dry lakes in the end of summer, and all the fish, there's nothing there, right? But when it rains and the water builds up, well, the wargle comes along, he grabs turtles and fish from the Swan River, he goes underground and he replenishes the lakes and the swamps all through West Australia. So he's one of the important things that the wargle does in WA. Okay, this one was done in the Northern Territory. This is the first person that was made in by the spirits or the Dreamtime people. Now he created fire, and fire creates life, and the life is that's his wife with a coolaman, which is a thing for carrying food, and the baby. These things here, they're the laws given them by the Dreamtime people, or the spirits. The black laws are the ones that people don't like, but other laws are what they do like. So this is how it's done. Now Gus Ryder, the owner of this car, he was a he played in an Aboriginal football team Australian rules football, and he played, I've got a photo of him from 1962 with his mates, and Aboriginal football team, the Wandering Wanderers, was started in 1913, and they played all over West Australia, and they were very successful. Now the name on here is the Wandering Wanderers, and it's a football club. And Gus was after playing for years for them, he ended up being the coach for about 30 years. He brought over people, the kids from disadvantaged groups and backgrounds, and taught them football. He once told me that he had 15 guys or 15 children in this car, which is a little bit cramped. This guy here is the keeper of the Sacred Waterhole. The Sacred Waterhole is down in New Norcia, and these are the laws of the land. I'm not going to go through them all because there's a few. And this is a crow, and the crow with a message stick here, and the message stick is how Aboriginals tell their stories to other people for far away. The crow flies and gives them this message, and that's the message of the laws of the keeper. This is the first dingoes. Dingoes are a native dog in Australia. Now hopefully you can see this one. This one's in the people up near Broome, between Broome and Cape Leveque. Now if you know anything about Western Australia, there's some dinosaur footprints up there that they found in the ground. Well, the Aboriginal people think that it was a giant emu, and the giant emu there was a Barella man, and he was the law of all that area, and if you were misbehaved, well, the Barella man will come and punish you. This is the first man, and the first woman, and the first baby. That's the Aboriginal Adam and Eve. This one is, if you ever go to Broome, they have a thing a couple of times a year where you can see the stairway out to the moon goes over the mudflats, and it looks really cool. Anyway, the Aboriginal people had a story about that, and that was, there was spirit women who wanted to see a real man, and they came down. There was two of them, and they came down to see a man, and they saw him on the beach, and they went up and touched him. But this is really bad news. The spirit women aren't allowed to do this. So the other spirits turned him to two cockatoos, and the cockatoos flew back up the stairway to heaven into the sky, and they were turned into stars. And those two stars you can still see. Well, obviously you can still see them in the sky. I don't know which ones they are, but anyway, if you're up in Broome in certain times of the year where the mudflats are low tide, you can see the stairway where they send the cockatoos up into the sky.